Here we are talking with Stephen Tate, aka Hattrick364. How the hell are you, man? I mean,
I'm good. It's good to be back on solid ground.
you've been on a whirlwind tour of like every home brewer's dream.
Yeah. Living my dream and about to get back to the real world of actually brewing beer and making a living off of it.
Nice. Now, if I remember correctly, you started doing like Homebrew Wednesdays back January of 2012. That was right at the beginning.
Yeah. I was one of the first in the actual Homebrew Wednesdays and fell off the map for a little while, but here I am back again.
Now, I remember watching it back then, and you were a big influence because you were putting together a really nice system back then as well. Before I had a chance to start mine, and then you were doing videos like how to work with the Blitzpink gun and all the brew porn that you could shake a stick at. So that was really cool. And then you went in and you came and told everybody about a year later that you're starting a master brewer or a brewmaster program through Siebel Institute. How did that all come to play?
Well, I've been sitting behind a desk for the better part of my adult life, and when I was in college, couldn't really decide on a major. Majored in marketing and got a marketing job, and about a year after that, decided that I really hated marketing and being behind a desk. And as soon as I found home brewing, I'd say it was probably my fourth or fifth batch of all grain that I decided that this is kind of what I wanted to do with my life, and kind of started researching how to make that actually happen. Found Siebel and went from there.
So how did that whole process work? I mean, where did you even get started? You just contacted Siebel and then they gave you a little bit of awareness? I mean, was there anything else that you had to do before time?
Well, I talked to Siebel first, and then University of California, Davis also offers a program, and I was kind of looking between those two schools, but the UC Davis program is very science and math oriented, whereas Siebel is more hands-on practical, and that's kind of what I wanted to focus on. I hate science, I hate math, and I talked to Siebel, and the day I got accepted to the program with Siebel is the day I got an internship at a local brewery here, and so that helped get me into Siebel. Plus, I took the Concise course back in October for 2 weeks, and then that was kind of like the prerequisites.
What is the Concise course?
Yeah. It's basically 2 weeks in Chicago or 3 months online, and it just kind of prepares you step by step how the program's going to go. It was pretty much an hour spent on each brewing topic you can think of. And
did you need
it was intense.
Did you need anything ahead of time, like a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or anything like that before?
Not with Siebel. With UC Davis, they prefer a bachelor's degree, but Siebel, we had people who'd never gone to college, people who'd never brewed beer before, so they're open to having anybody who wants to give it a shot.
So I guess you could really see a lot of yourself maybe in some of those people who had never brewed before, like when you got started.
Yeah, and it was funny. Some of the people in my Concise course had actually started home brewing by watching some of my videos and some of the other people's videos. So it was neat seeing where they started versus where they were.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so you go through the Concise course, and you can only do that in Chicago?
You can also do it online, but it's 3 months online and 2 weeks in Chicago, and it's the same price.
Okay.
So,
And then once that's done, you're already enlisted in the Siebel course, and then you're just waiting for that date to start. And then how did that all work out? I mean, tell me how it went for you.
Well, we graduated from the Concise course, and then pretty much I started studying for the master's program that very next day when I got home. There's a book called Technology, Malting, and Brewing.
It's an expensive
by
book.
Coons. Yeah. That's the program, the Siebel program, and the World Brewing Academy program both follow that book pretty much all the way through. So if you have that book, you've definitely got to jump on the game.
Nice.
But I was studying that and then just reading everything I can about brewing between November and late January.
Now, I did a little bit of digging around, trying to find where I can buy that book, and it doesn't seem to be available anywhere. So how did you get your hands on it?
I think the only U.S. company that sells it is Siebel. And I think that the edition that I got is being phased out, and you'll be able to buy them starting in like August or September, the new editions.
Okay.
Probably another $400.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic of money, I mean, total costs, I mean, what did it take in order to get from Concise course? Now, let's kind of put it into context as well, because you're not from Chicago, so you had to go to Chicago, live there for a while, and then go back to, where was Siebel? Is it in Memphis or?
Siebel's in Chicago.
So you stayed there as well for the Siebel program, and then not just that, but then you went. Where did you go overseas?
We were based in a little suburb outside of Munich, Germany, called Gräfelfing, which was the 5th richest municipality in Germany. So it wasn't cheap either by any means.
And that was for how long in Germany?
I was there from from March 25th until 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
I came back for 2 weeks in May. We had May off, so I went to Brussels and then came back home for a few weeks.
Okay, so
I was over in Germany for 3 months.
3 months. So all in all, it was about, was it 6 or 8 months from start to finish?
Including the Concise course, I started studying basically 9 months ago. But the Master Brewer program was right at 6 months.
Now, looking at your bank account over the course of the last 9 months, what's the depletion
I don't even want to
value?
think about it. Well, let's see. The Concise course was, for the actual school, was probably $4,500 plus books, plus lodging. I stayed with my cousin in Chicago, so that was a nice little savings there. And then Chicago food and beer is wonderful, so I'm sure by the end of the Concise course, probably $6,500. And then when Chicago, the Master Brewer program itself was like $26,000.
Okay.
Plus I had to find an apartment in Germany, which was $700 a month. 700 euros a month, I should say. Food in Germany is expensive. The beer's the only thing cheap in Germany, it turns out, and we drank a lot of that. And I traveled to France, got to see a stage of the Tour de France, went to Amsterdam, went to Brussels twice. So when it's all said and done, I probably spent close to $40,000 on the whole Master Brewer program itself.
Wow.
So 50 maybe for total.
Yeah. That's a very interesting chunk of change, but it's a big investment for your future. So, you know.
Yeah, I ended up getting a job when I came home in May. I had an interview and got a job, and it'll take me a little over a year to make that money back, but at least it'll be coming back.
Now, okay, let's talk about that for a minute, because you hear these sort of horror stories, or at least I do when I listen to like the Brewing Network and listen to these podcasts with Jamil Zainasheff and a couple of the other guys. John Palmer, they're sort of weighing in. And it was interesting. They had a talk, it was probably no more than 2 months ago, where they were talking about what is it like to become, a new hire into a brewery, like, I don't know, Stone, or if it's like one of the other very popular ones. Regardless if you come in with a degree or not, you're going to be the cleaning guy for a while. I mean, is this what you have to look forward to? Initially, paying your dues.
My job, I actually got lucky with the brewery that I'll be working for. They have 2 brewers and 1,000 barrels a month of fermentation capacity, so they're running pretty lean, and so I'll be brewing starting full time whenever I head down to Alabama.
Okay, so you're from Memphis.
Yep.
You went and did both of the Concise course and Siebel in Chicago. Went to Germany for 3 months to go to the second half of that program. And now you're going to move to Alabama.
Yep, I'll be in Huntsville, Alabama, brewing for Straight to Ale.
Straight to Ale. All right, everybody look out for that, Straight to Ale. Go find it.
Yeah, they actually got real popular over the last few years. They've got an IPA called Monkey Knot, a double IPA called Gorilla Knot, and then a barrel-aged old ale called Unobtainium.
And can anybody obtain it? Is it bottled, or is it just local distribution?
Yeah, it's bottled. It's I think Unobtainium's bottled once or twice a year. But I'm happy to do some beer trades with people if they want to.
That sounds like a good idea. Now, what's somebody got to do in order to do a trade with you with those Cantillon bottles you brought back with you?
Oh, man. I drank a lot of them in Germany. It turns out that they don't take too kindly to heavily overstuffed bags anymore. So I drank one bottle of Cantillon in the airport with a few of my friends on the way home. I wanted to see, like, Big Q over in Scotland, and you over where you were, and a couple other people. But, man, school... I hadn't been to school in a while and forgot just how much it takes out of you.
So speaking about taking it out of you, I mean, did you leave love behind in the U.S., or did you find love in Germany? How about that part of your life?
Well, my girlfriend is in Memphis, and then everything else I love in the world is in Memphis in America. It was tough, man. Germany was emotionally, physically, and mentally exhausting. We're doing this 7 hours ahead, I think you are. So my body time is the same as your time right now. And I mean, I'm going to bed. I would be going to bed about this time every night. So communicating with people was hard. Yeah. Having a German phone plan that isn't very intuitive was real hard.
That were like Viper, or what's that? Viber or something?
Yeah, I was using Viber and WhatsApp pretty much for all my communication needs.
So, what is your plan now, in addition to like moving to Alabama? Do you know anybody down there, or it's just going to be all new?
The only person I know in Alabama actually did the first half of this program with me. He did Chicago and then 1 month in Germany for the diploma program. Mm-hmm. And he works at a place called Blue Pants Brewery about 10 miles from my brewery. But that's the only person in Alabama I know.
Okay. How far of a drive is it to go up to see Poughkeepsie in North Carolina?
I think it's about 5 hours from there. I think right now he's 8 hours from Memphis, and Huntsville is like 3.5 hours from Memphis.
Yeah, do
So I think somewhere about 5 hours or so.
go up and do a hookup. Maybe check out JCPU nuts system.
Yeah, I was just watching that video a couple weeks ago where Puka went over there, and I had no idea that he was going to be that big.
Yeah. So you guys are like the two main ex-brew tubers that went from Homebrew Wednesdays, homebrewing, and then taking it to the next level. No bullshit, no joking around. This is my life, and taking control. That's fantastic.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a long road so far, and I realized pretty soon on that the biggest difference between home brewing and professional brewing is just the vast amount of cleaning you have to do. There's thousands more pounds of grain and stuff, but
Yeah.
can't just use Star San all over everything.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because I did want to ask you, what is the main differences that you see between brewing on your, 3 kettle system versus this huge 1,000 liter, whatever, it's a 3 barrel, 7 barrel, 10 barrel, 20 barrel system. I mean, what were some of the bigger systems that you got a chance to get your hands on? And then
The system at school that we had access to and brewed on, each group brewed twice on this system as a master. It was a 5 hectoliter system, so 500 liters as opposed to 20 liters homebrew size. And then we each did 2 homebrew size batches, and then we went to Austria to brew on a 100-liter system, and we went to a brewery in Germany called Riegele to brew on, I think, another 100-liter system.
so those are pretty big. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not your 20 gallon or 10 gallon system anymore. So what were some of the big differences that you saw, in addition to like a lot more cleaning, obviously a lot more grain? I mean, you had to have been sort of overwhelmed, but in a dream to have that many hops, I guess that you had to do.
Oh yeah. The hop fridge at school was incredible.
But how about the process? Is any of the things in the process different? And if so, how so?
With the 5 hectoliter system we were brewing in Germany, that was 100% automated. There were, I think, 2 manual valves, and you had to get the grain out manually. But everything else was, I was sitting in front of a computer screen, or 3 computer monitors, and if you wanted the liquid to go from the mash tun to the lauter tun, you just pressed a button and boom, there it went. But as far as procedures, different than home brewing, really the biggest thing is quality control. Our goal as professional brewers is to replicate, duplicate, and one batch can't be different from the rest, which on the homebrew scale, I loved changing components of all my beers. I'd brew the same beer 4 times and just change one thing each time, but you can't really do that and make a living with it. Lab work was different. We were in the chemical technical analysis lab a number of times each week, and the microbiology lab a few times each week, and that's pretty much the main difference, is knowing what actually is contributing to the beer making, I guess. And you don't just use a smack pack of yeast for a 5 hectoliter system. You gotta propagate that stuff.
So does every brewery sort of have its own, that you ran into, its own sort of yeast specialist? Or will you as the brewer be expected to handle that as well?
Well, when we were brewing in Germany, pretty much, and I don't know if you've made it over there, but pretty much all the yeast in Germany is the same. Everybody pretty much uses a bottom fermenting yeast and then a wheat beer yeast. And so there weren't a whole lot of specialists, but at the brewery I'll be working at in Alabama, they have a yeast propagator, and I'm looking to make some fun pilot batches and see what we can come up with as far as some unique stuff.
So talking about unique stuff, I mean, sour beers seem to be taking off quite a bit. Now, you've been out of the country for quite a while, but on Milk the Funk Facebook group and Dan ABA and all those guys, they're caught up in a whole new other whirlwind of sour beers. How's your interest in that area?
When I open my own brewery, which hopefully won't be too far down the road, I'd like to have a large focus on sour beers. Barrel aging is just kind of what I'd like to do.
What about it is sort of interesting to you?
All the different bacterias. I really like. I'm not on the hop train. I haven't gotten into double IPAs or now what's triple IPAs. And I really love stouts, but there's just something about a good sour beer that tickles you right back here that gives you a little acid reflux sometimes.
Right.
That just makes life a little bit better.
So Dan, I was talking to Dan ABA once. He was trying to convince me that sours were the way to go. So I got a couple of recommendations from someone else, and I went off and bought like a couple Flander Reds and Oud Bruins, and another popular one. I think Tank 7 is a really nice one. Farmhouse, not really sour, but it's Brett. And then Love Child was another one, I think, from the Smokestack series, whatever it is, from that same brewery. Those are all really nice beers. But the Flanders and the Oud Bruin, forget about it. That was like trying to fly an airplane, never having flown before. My tongue was not prepared for the vinegar.
Yeah, vinegar's better than the smell of like horse manure, though.
Yeah.
If you're not used to that smell.
That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, we need to get you some of these Cantillons over your way. Let you taste a real sour beer.
Well, give me some recommendations. What would you recommend? Let's say I had access to anything.
From Cantillon, my favorites are the Saint Lamvinus, which is their lambic with Bordeaux grapes aged in a Bordeaux barrel. And that's probably my favorite. And then Fufun, which is the apricot lambic, is real nice. And hang on, I'll show you my favorite. Here's a pretty good Flanders, the Duchess.
That's the one that I had.
That's a pretty good one. But this Rosé de Gambrinus is the lambic, or the Framboise from Cantillon, and that's probably my mom's favorite, my favorite, my girlfriend's favorite, everybody's.
Now, recently I've started getting into reading books like Brewmaster's Table and Pair and Food and Beer and Food. And then, have you gotten into this yet, where you're pairing like sour beers with desserts? Or my question is basically, do you prefer with a dessert a stout, an imperial stout, a Russian imperial stout, or a lambic, framboise, or a creek, or something like that?
Well, I wouldn't complain if either of them were put in front of me, but I'd prefer a sour beer.
Okay.
We did some food pairings in our class.
Yeah.
Randy Mosier is a big homebrewing luminary.
Yep.
He taught us in Chicago food pairings, and that was pretty neat.
Now, you had a couple of long sessions with a few well-known people, right? So there was Randy Mosher. Who were some of the other ones?
Our favorite was John Mallett from Bell's. Randy Mosier, Matt Brendelson from Firestone Walker.
Right.
Taught us during the concise course.
Now those are some pretty big names, so very popular names that people know.
Yeah, if you want to put dollars to cents and say that we spent $50,000 overall doing this whole thing, the contacts alone in the industry, in manufacturing, equipment manufacturing. We toured Breeze and got all their contact information. Hung out at Wireman. The contacts alone were worth that $50,000 that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, that's nice. So it sort of reaffirms the fact, or reaffirms what we see in the craft brew industry, where all of the brewers and the networking and people are sort of interconnected everywhere and helpful and communicative, and they try and help each other out.
Yeah, one of the things that was really pounded into us during the Chicago portion was that there are no secrets in brewing. Pretty much, if you're a brewer, you're trying to chip away at the Bud Miller Coors of the world. And so I'll help you, you'll help me. If you need hops, I've got hops. I mean, it's a real collaborative effort. And my class was 40 people strong until May, and then June and July was 24 strong. So I've got 24 collaborations right out of the gate that can be done tomorrow, honestly.
Nice.
So it's a real nice feeling to be a part of this little fraternity of craft brewers.
Was there any simultaneous classes, or were you guys the only class going on at that one time in Germany?
At Siebel in Chicago, we were the only class at the time, but there were 200 German students at this school as well. They have a 2-year and a 1-year brewing program, and to be qualified as a German to go to this school, you have to have worked for 3 years in a brewery. So the Germans who graduated with us were 4 and 5 years into their tenure as students.
Oh yeah. So they like right out of high school go work at a brewery and then work up to this fellowship, or
yeah, pretty much that's a German way. This school is like a state-run school in Germany, so they had standardized tests and all that kind of stuff. And was glad we didn't have to do that. Our tests were hard enough.
Now, you had talked about earlier about you met some really well-known names in the industry while you were at Siebel. But you also met somebody very famous over in Germany, a sour beer connoisseur. You want to tell me a little bit about your experience and who you met?
There was this sour beer festival in Belgium, which was called the Friendship Blend Release Party, basically, and it involved Vinny Caruso with Russian River, Cantillon, and then Allagash Brewing out of Portland, Maine. And they all brewed beer, and then it was blended, big deal. And we were in Europe at the time it was happening, so we made the venture over there. And 2 days before the festival, we went and hung out and started drinking sour beer. And then that night, we met the owner of Cantillon, and he said, come back. We were American brewers, so he told us to come back the next day, and he opened a rare bottle for us the next day.
Wicked.
And as he was opening the beer, Vinny Caruso from Russian River walks in, and Jean Van Roy from Cantillon tells Vinny, "Hang on, I've got to open a beer for my friends," which was pretty exciting.
Nice.
And Vinny had just been to Germany with his wife for a few days, and we were talking all about the shitty German beer, which is really good, but when you're an American, it's not good. And
Right.
the next day we were talking at the festival, and the first thing I told him was that I really hated Pliny the Elder. And we talked about that for a minute.
Now, in my mind,
And,
I just envisioned Vinny rushing you on a sofa, kind of like Greg did with Ryan Rashawn.
No, it wasn't quite that dramatic, but yeah, it was. It took him by surprise for sure. And we talked about sour beers for a while. They're making some of the best in the world, hands down. Them and Allagash. Really respect those guys, and man, it'd be fun to play in their playground for a day or two.
I'm a complete novice when it comes to sour beers. I've only had I can count it on one hand how many I've had. But I understand Cascade is another popular one. Have you had any of their beers from around Portland?
My favorite from Cascade is called the Vine, I believe, and it's a grape one as well. But yeah, Cascade, the brewery, if you can find anything from them. Tart of Darkness is one of my all-time favorite beers. That's a go-to favorite when I can find it.
So, are you a cellarer? Do you have a cellar full of, or do you just drink them when they're fresh? And let's go.
Well, when I went to Belgium the first time, I brought back a bunch of beer hoping to cellar some Cantillon, but I bought them and paid all that money to get them back to Memphis. So I drank a good few of them, and brought 24 bottles back the second time I went to Belgium. And I think only 6 bottles made it back to Memphis. So I'm hoping to cellar a few of those.
Nice.
I'm more of an instant gratification guy.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. You've heard the conversation, or probably maybe seen Greg Koch, right? Or Greg Koch, whatever he's travels around and he's talking about, drink them. Just drink them. No need to cellar them, just drink them. But then again...
speaking of Greg, they just announced that Stone's opening in Berlin.
Yes.
So Stone will have a distribution hub right near you.
Yeah, I've already commented on Google Plus that looks like I've already got to schedule in a visit to Berlin next year. 2016, I guess it will be. But yeah.
I'd like to make the venture back over to Germany, but not so soon.
Give us some time.
My little part of Germany was a really nice area. My dad came up at the end of April, and we traveled around for a little while, and then my mom and sister were able to come up, and they all thought it was awesome, and it was real nice. The main street of my town was like 2 red lights and a whole bunch of shopping. But if you needed anything between noon on Friday and 8 o'clock on Monday, you're pretty much out of luck as far as like groceries, anything like that. So you had to prepare well in advance for things.
So when it comes to the hobby aspect of it, I assume that you will want to do some of this still at home, or maybe. That's like... Then again, in my mind, I'm thinking Jake CPU, and he's not really thinking about brewing a batch of beer when he's at home anymore.
Well, he's got a lot of money involved. When I get to his level, which hopefully will be in the next 3 years, I'd love to give up the home brewing aspect of it and make my own money and business. But at this point, yeah, I started a yeast starter yesterday for a big old barley wine I'm going to brew this weekend.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Like, what will you plant? What have you been wanting to brew for a long time? So, barley wine's the first on the list.
Yeah, my homebrew club in Memphis is filling a rum or whiskey barrel at the end of August, so I'll be brewing that this weekend. But I had a lot of fun. We were able to get real creative in Germany. The nice thing about being Americans in Germany was that we didn't have to adhere to the Reinheitsgebot, which is the German purity law.
Yes.
And so we made a margarita goza. A goza is the salted beer, and we were drunk one night sitting by the river in Gräfelfing talking about some ideas for the next brew day. And somehow my entire group agreed on a margarita goza, which is pretty interesting. And I'd like to brew that in America and find a tequila barrel to age it in. It was pretty cool. And my team, at the day of graduation, we had beer presentations. We'd been brewing, I think we brewed 8 times in Germany total, but 6 as master students, and 2 of those were homebrew batches, or homebrew size batches. And at the end, they told us from day one that we're going to have a competition at the end. Best beer wins. And we brewed an Imperial Pilsner, all the groups, and all the groups brewed a Belgian Wheat. And my team's Belgian Wheat took first place in that competition, and our Pilsner took 3rd place. But overall, we won the beer competition. Yeah. Thank you. That was a big, exciting thing, because we went from not knowing if we were going to graduate to finding out we graduated and that our beers had won. So that was exciting.
Awesome.
And I'd like to that Belgian Wheat beer that we made was real nice. So that's on my radar to brew here pretty soon.
Okay, so you're doing a barley wine. You really want to do that margarita gose, and then you want to do this Belgian Wheat. Now,
plus all my sour beer projects that have been in my pipeline for a while.
Okay, so you did mention that you brewed 8 beers while you were there. So what 8 beers did you brew that were in part of this course?
We brewed. Where's that bottle go? We brewed a light wheat beer, which we bottled up, and a bottle made it to America. We brewed a regular Bavarian wheat beer, a Helles, a Pilsner, a dark Helles, so like forgetting the German word, like a Doppelbock kind of deal. Yep. The Margarita Goza, the Imperial Pilsner, and the Belgian Wheat beer. I think there were more. I think we brewed 2 Helleses.
Okay.
Or 3.
Okay. Yeah, those are very popular there. Those and the box.
Yeah, I don't think I drank anything other than Helleses the entire time we were there. I'm not a big fan of the banana out of wheat beers, so
okay.
Avoided those as much as possible.
And the characteristics on the Belgian wheat that you like?
Oh man, we used coriander, sweet orange peel, bitter orange peel, and a little bit of ginger, mixed with the spiciness of that yeast. We used just a regular standard Belgian wheat yeast that you can get through Y yeast, I'm sure. And it was It was really nice. We used the scrapings of somebody's ginger, and like maybe got 3 grams for a 20-liter batch, and they used 10 grams in their 20-liter batch, and somehow, miraculously, the 3 grams showed up way better than their 10 grams.
Nice. So that's the one that you want to do in the pipeline as well.
Yeah, that I'm real proud of that beer. I've been in homebrew competitions locally and stuff like that, but never a competition that was 24 master brewers or candidates, I guess, at that point. And the beers were judged by the students and the teachers, so having that reaffirmation or affirmation that you brewed a hell of a beer was pretty cool.
Now, out of the 25, was there anybody that didn't make it?
In our class, we all passed, thankfully. There were questions up until the morning of graduation. Hands down, that final week of class was the hardest week of anything I've ever done in my life. We had an 85 question multiple choice test on Monday morning, bright and early. And the thing about the Germans is they're not happy if they give you A, B, and C, and D, and you pick one. There could be 4 answers that are correct, and if you don't pick every single one of them, you don't get credit. And so I ended up bombing that test, but not near as bad as we thought it would be. Of my close friend circle, the highest grade was like a 67 on that test out of 100. And then later on that Monday, after being deflated by that test, we had to come back and have a 2-hour-long written exam, which was 1 question, and you had 2 hours to write about it. And that was easier. I think I got like an 85 on that, which I was real happy with. And then we had a 30-minute practical microbiology exam, broken up into 15-minute segments. One, we were being grilled on anything microbiology. It was real lucky that I got to talk about sour beers, so that oral exam was pretty good. And then we had to plate some yeast and look at it under the microscope, and out of a whole list of 18 possible microorganisms that it could have been, we had to know what it was, know its attributes and characteristics. Did it spoil your beer? I got lucky and somehow drew sour beer, which, as we've talked about, I really enjoy. So that took the edge off of that part of the test. And then we had to pick from a number of samples. And I ended up picking Pediococcus, but we had to take a sample, put it under a microscope, talk about what it was, narrow it down based on the media it had been plated on, and all kinds of stuff. But I chose my bacteria correctly and went back home and started studying for our technical exam on chemical technical analysis, where I got pretty lucky and drew the friability meter. So I had to
what is the friability meter?
It's basically this mill that grinds your malt, and however it falls out between powder and husk material, and just like the coarse grind and fine grind, it kind of tells you how well modified your malt is. We don't have to worry about that too much in America, but in Germany and Dooman specifically, they do in-house malting for some of their beers, and during the malting process, stuff doesn't modify as well, so you can't access the sugars quite as easily. So I had to talk about how you work the friability meter. I had to actually perform the test and talk about alternative testing and sampling. Because when you have a big old truck waiting outside to either drop off your malt or go back to the malt house, like, you gotta perform those tests pretty quick, and so it was kind of like a real life situation. So it was good. And then the last day we presented our beers, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah, nice.
And we graduated.
Everybody passed and you went on.
Yeah, we had good.
What's the dropout rate?
Throughout the whole thing, there were 3 different programs going on pretty much simultaneously. In Chicago, started the first 6 weeks of Chicago. If you'd only did that, you ended up with an associate's degree. And then after that, the people that went on to Germany for the first month ended their schooling with a diploma an international diploma in brewing technologies. I think we started out with 48 people in Chicago, and then 40 of us went to Germany, and then 24 of us did the whole program and became master brewers.
Nice.
If you dropped out, you didn't get your money back, so people were in it for the long haul.
It's in the stick in it, yeah. So, what are you going to do with your homebrew equipment now that you are a master brewer, sir?
Oh man, I've got big dreams. When I land to wherever I land, I'd hope to set up a little electric brewery like the one I see a control panel for behind you.
Yeah.
My future business partner has actually been in the process of building that for hopefully a potential pilot batch system, which would be pretty cool. But right now, my home brewing stuff is going to continue collecting dust, and I don't think I'm going to be moving it with me to Alabama. I'll probably take a few of the components, but not the big old stand.
They probably have a pilot system, I assume, at that brewery as well.
Yeah, they have a 1-barrel pilot system, which once I get there and I'm able to take some stress off of the whole company, they'll be doing a bunch more pilot batches. They're a 20-barrel. I don't know if I told you this. They're a 20-barrel brew house with 1,000 barrels of fermentation space, not including bright tanks and serving tanks and all that stuff. So if you do that math, you're brewing 20 barrels about 45 times a month. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And some of the tanks they got from a brewery out of Atlanta called Sweetwater, and the temperature probes on those tanks are 80 barrels up. So you got to brew 4 times before you can even see what's happening inside that fermenter.
Wow. I've had a couple Sweetwaters, actually.
Yeah, they just got to Memphis, and the brewery I'll be working for is my future boss is coming into Memphis tomorrow to look at getting some distribution out here for after I've started, which will be neat.
Are you guys hooking up while he's there? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to drive him around. I guess my first official duties start tomorrow.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. It's bittersweet having a job that's not in your town. Get to go somewhere new and meet new people and stuff, but all my family, friends, and loved ones would have to come down to Alabama to be able to taste the labor of my love. And
Yep.
so now that they're looking at Memphis, that'll be nice.
Yeah, I guess I didn't catch that. So he's coming up looking for a new brewery up there.
They're looking to expand, and they're going to be getting distribution going here, and in the future, Memphis might be a viable option for something as well.
So that'd be great. And then hopefully that you'd be able to come back home and, do your dream in your hometown.
That'd be nice without having to start my own. I'd love to brew in Memphis, but craft beer in Memphis kind of started as I was planning on leaving. One of the brewery's first brew days was the day I got accepted to Siebel, and then 2 other people opened within months. And before that, we just had 1 brewery and a brew pub. So I was hoping to be a part of the craft beer scene in Memphis, but didn't really work out that way.
Maybe in the future.
Maybe.
But they're opening up all over the place. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, it's an exciting time.
Exciting time, but there's also, a little bit of wariness, something to worry about,
Yeah, people are always talking about the craft beer bubble, and I think I just read that we're 3,000 breweries strong and growing in the U.S., which is higher than it was before Prohibition. So that's exciting. I read that I think the majority of Americans live within 10 miles of a brewery. So there might be a craft beer bubble, and it might pop at some point. But it's still real exciting. And being one of the few master brewers in America, this program's only been around for 4 years.
So how many of you are there in America? Do you have a number?
Well, we had people from Taiwan in our class and Canada. So in America, I'm not sure, but I think they capped the class at 24 every year. So maybe 92.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little bit more than that. The diploma program has been going on for a number of years, 15 years, I think. So Siebel educated brewers are all over the world right now, but there's a very select few masters.
Well, triple digits, that's still something. I mean,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's exciting. It was the graduation ceremonies was pomp and circumstance, and I mean German or Bavarian brass bands, traditional. I don't know if you saw my pants when I was walking around, but I'm wearing my pants and my lederhosen.
Yeah, there you go.
Which I think could become my new brewing pants.
Nice.
Bavarian girls in traditional dresses. It was a big deal for the Germans, and we're happy to be a part of it.
One of the things I've seen, just watching social media, talking about this, number of breweries, surpassing 3,000 and a bubble, a craft brewery bubble. I think it's more about saturation, being oversaturated. There is a saturation point, but it's probably quite a ways down in the future.
Yeah, and people in America, I don't know how it is where you are, but the local movement in America is really exciting, from farm to table restaurants. Craft beer is becoming farm to table. I mean, the spent grains at the brewery I was working in Memphis go to a cattle farm or a pig farm, and you can go to the farmer's market and buy the steaks that beef made.
Yeah,
and
that's kind of cool.
It's a cool thing. So I don't think being within 10 miles of a craft brewery is anything to be ashamed about in America.
No, not by any means whatsoever. I remember Bobby Meyer posted something on Facebook where there was a controversial bill that was being passed that would actually prevent craft breweries from selling their spent grains to farmers or giving them away. It was more giving away, not selling. That was
we were in Chicago going through classes when that bill was in process, and thank God it changed, man. That probably would have burst the craft beer bubble, if anything. Going through all the regulations and money and testing and stuff to get your spent grains FDA approved and all that stuff would have been a huge expense that I don't think your normal 7-barrel pub brewery could be able to withstand.
There was a little bit of conspiracy theories floating around concerning that one, and Big Beer, right? Microbreweries pushing that.
Oh yeah, Big Beer. Big Beer is always looking to stick their nose where it doesn't belong. They do. If I learned anything in school, it was to respect the big three. I mean, their beer might not be the best, but I mean, you can't tell if your can of Budweiser was brewed in the same place my can of Budweiser was. You can't differentiate and replication and duplication and just the marketing. Man, marketing is a big part of this as well.
And that's a field that you know about. So,
yeah, thankfully I'm ahead of the curve on that one, but
yeah.
Man,
I did read your Facebook post or something like that as a reply to somebody else about specifically that point, where their ability to brew in different locations and have the consistency that they have is very respectful. I mean, you at least have to respect that.
Yeah, they're the enemy and everything, but they know what the hell they're doing over there. One thing that I'd like to address is, I don't know if you were aware, I did a Reddit AMA a few months ago when the program started, and kind of when I got sent off by all my friends and stuff, they all told me not to lose your creativity. That was a big thing going into this that everybody was worried about, was that we'd get in there, learn all the German ways of doing things, and then just forget about. Yeah. And to an extent, we were brainwashed a little bit. Everybody talks about the Reinheitsgebot there. Everybody talks down on American craft beer. We brought some Bourbon County Stout from Goose Island over there with us. A couple Pliny the Elders were brought up as gifts to the teachers. And I opened sour beers for them. And the general consensus is that the Reinheitsgebot's the way to go. And so from the littlest, you're able to drink at 14 over there, beer and wine. And so people were really, really talking up the Reinheitsgebot and stuff like that. And so brainwashing could have been involved, but the creativity in my mind just kept on flowing. We were brewing these German beers and weren't able to be creative, but we were dreaming about coming back to America and getting to be creative and throwing sugar and all kinds of stuff that shouldn't be in beer in our beer.
I think I do remember one of your posts. So on Homebrew Talk, you're known as Motley Brews, right?
Yep.
And then on somebody had asked about that, there was a thread about Siebel Institute, and then you had mentioned something about a Reddit article, and then I guess that's the one that you're referencing now, where it was people were talking. It's more they're pushing more industrial business, and then
up until very recently, the people that went to Siebel and the people that went to Dumans in Germany were big beer employees, and that really changed with our class. In my concise course class, we had somebody from Kona Brewing, and that was pretty much the biggest brewery we had somebody from. We had somebody from one of the Miller divisions, but our master class had no big breweries represented. We were all American craft beer people or Canadian, Taiwan craft beer. So this was the first year where they were catering to American craft brewers exclusively. So that's even the big BMC people have Siebel educated people running their lines.
So they didn't start calling you rebels by the end of the...
No, but the Germans, we were told everything in Germany, all the compliments are kind of like backhanded slaps in the face.
Okay.
We were told the day we graduated that we were not the smartest class by far, but we were definitely the most fun and social. We had barbecues at school every weekend. One of our classmates was a competition barbecue smoker.
That's nice.
And being from Memphis, I know my way around the grill pretty well too. So my house was a fun little hangout every weekend, and it was a good time. But yeah, this was the first year that BMC wasn't the dominating focus this class.
So you must have like a lot of regrets then.
Oh yeah, man. I regret not getting to do more while I was over there. 'Cause I tried to live it up as best I could, because who knows when. Well, that opportunity's never coming back, but who knows when I'll get to just take weeks off of work again and travel Europe and get to do stuff over in that part of the world.
I foresee it's about 20 years between you and them, the similarities with Coke going on in sabbaticals nowadays. And so 20 years between you're going on your sabbaticals. How about that?
I sure hope it's that soon.
Nice.
If I hadn't learned anything else, the thing I took away most was that brewing really is a business, and you can have fun, but you've got to sell your beer at the end of the day. So while I might not be a fan of the big IPAs and double IPAs, you've got to make them. And so if anybody has a good IPA recipe out there, send it my way.
I hear Russian Rivers is public now.
Yeah. I hate that beer.
Well, on that note, thanks a lot for taking the time to share with us and talk to me, and allow us to peek into the world of what it's like to go through a brewmaster's process. Thanks so much.
It was my pleasure, and I'll be down in Alabama by September, and so hopefully I'll get some homebrew videos out before then. But if not, I'm happy to welcome the world into the brewery. I'll be doing some here's how you brew a big batch of beer kind of videos, and anyone is welcome to come down. I know Puka's not too far. I don't know if any brew tubers are in the Alabama area, but our tap room is open 7 days a week for 7 hours a day. So come on by if you're ever in the area.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Look forward to seeing those videos. Hattrick364 on YouTube. Don't miss it.
Thanks a lot, Tony.
Thank you. We'll talk to you again.
All right, sounds good.